Don't want to wear a dumb plastic eye patch to your next pirate party like everyone else? Well, let's make a real one. Out of leather. I'll even show you a sweet trick to harden the leather, so it keeps its shape. Let's get making.
R.
This pirate happens to be my daughter, so I'll be using the kid size on the pattern. And yes, I'll have the pattern available, just check the links in the description. So cut out the pattern and then test it to make sure it's the right size. If everyone's happy, you can go find the leather that you stuck in the roof years ago. You know, behind the white top hat. The leather I'm using here is called vegetable tan leather, and that's because it was tanned using vegetables. That's important because it's going to allow us to do a really neat trick later on. As you can see here, my leather is around 1.5 millimeters thick. The neat thing about this project is it takes hardly any leather to do it, especially if you cut the strap separate from the eye portion for more efficient layout. Lay the eye patch on the back side of the leather and trace around it. Just be aware the pattern isn't fully symmetrical, so put it either face down or face up, depending on which eye you want to not be able to see out of. Grab a super sharp knife and cut along the line, remembering, of course, not to cut your fingers off. And you'll probably need to go over that cut 2 or 3 times in order to get all the way through the leather. Now we want to give this eye patch a dome shape so it doesn't interfere with your eye underneath. So grab some warm water, put it in a bowl, and drop the leather in for about 40 seconds.
40 seconds, starting now.
After it's been soaked, you can see the leather is now soft and pliable. And do note that this only works with vegetable tanned leather. If you try it with like leather from an old jacket or something, it's just gonna fail miserably. Grab a nice big metal spoon and snuggle that eye patch right into the hollow. Now set your oven to 122 degrees Fahrenheit or 50 degrees Celsius, which unfortunately my oven doesn't do.
Okay, so I didn't realize this, but our oven only goes to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the lowest it goes. I need it to be down to 122 or 50 Celsius. So what I'm going to do is just turn it off and on manually, use a meat thermometer, and try and keep it in that 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degree Fahrenheit range. And hopefully that works, because otherwise, if I left it at 170, it would burn my leather and it would start to curl and wreck, I think.
So in goes the spoon, and I do my best to keep the oven at 50 degrees Celsius. I left it for about an hour in the 50 degrees-ish oven, and when it came out, it was still nicely curved to the shape of the spoon, except now, instead of being soft and pliable, the moisture and heat has changed the leather to make it actually pretty hard. Which is great because that means it'll keep the form we just gave it. Next, mark out the straps so you have a way to keep the eye patch attached to your face. And cut the strips for the straps using a straight edge as a guide. Strip, strap, straight edge, as everyone says. Grab your straps, find a nearby head, and use that head to figure out the length of the straps you need. At this point, I'm really just figuring the length to the back center of the head because I want to put a buckle there. So grab a pair of your wife's favorite shoes, which happen to have buckles that are the perfect size for your straps, and then cut off the buckle. That was probably a bad idea. Put the strap through the buckle and fold it over. Now right in the middle of that fold, we want a little slot for that buckle stick thing. There's probably a special tool for this, but I just use a leather punch and punch 2 holes, which I then connect with my knife to make a slot. And now the little stick piece on your buckle has its own place to go. Double check where you want the buckle to sit on your head and cut that strap to the right length. I'm cutting mine at about 10 inches. For the second strap, cut the end to a nice rounded point, set a pair of dividers to around 6 millimeters, and make a whole bunch of marks equally spaced right down the center of that strip. You don't have to go all the way down the strip, just give enough holes in case your head grows, or shrinks, or you lend your eye patch to a neighbor. Okay, that's pretty good, except it's a little bit bulky where there's the 3 layers of leather all together. So I'm going to thin it out right around where the leather doubles over for the buckle.
This looks scary. It looks like I'm going to cut my finger. Don't do that.
Instead, go away from your fingers. That's a lot smarter. Make sure your knife is really sharp and just shave away a little bit at a time until it's about half its original thickness. There is actually a specific tool for doing this, which is sitting right there on the desk, but I just wanted to show that you don't necessarily need the fancy tools to still get a good result. And there we go. We've just taken some of the bulk out of that section. Now it's time to dye everything up. I'm using Tandy EcoFlow dye in the color Java Brown. Grab a random bit of cloth, make it into a little pad, put on some rubber gloves, and pour some dye in a dish. Now apply the dye to your leather. Apply a coat of dye nice and evenly over the whole surface and let it soak in. If you want it a bit darker, you can always repeat the process with another round of dye. Don't forget to do the edges, cause that would look silly. To get rid of the roughness at the edges, we've got gum tragacanth. Grab a little on your finger, rub it along the edge, grab a burnishing tool, and rub it on the edge with lots of pressure and lots of rubbing skills. It is kinda awkward, but in the end you get a nice smooth edge on your leather. Here you can see how the edge looks originally before I've done anything, and here it is after it's been smoothed over. Nice. Once the dye is dry, it's time to protect it. I'm using EcoFlow Satin Sheen here. Just wipe it on and let it dry. I gave mine 2 coats to give me a light sheen, a satin sheen. One last bit I forgot is a little loop that will hold any extra belt that goes past the buckle. I'm using my fancy leather skinnying tool here, and I guess I need some more practice. For this loop, just figure out how big it needs to be by putting it around both belts. And then just to keep things simple, a dab of super glue to hold it together. Trim off the extra and you've got yourself a little loop that you need to stain. Grab a small drill bit, this one's 1.3 millimeters. Put it in something so you can drill with it. My drill chuck couldn't hold drills this small, so I'm using just a hand chuck. Fold over the leather where the belt buckle goes. Make 4 dots in kind of a square pattern, and then drill through both layers of leather. We're doing this just so that it's really easy to sew when the time comes. And the time has come. Make sure you get your buckle on and it's facing the right way. Grab a blunt leather working needle and some thick waxed thread. Start from the back and go diagonal across the front, then come back up from one of the unused holes and cross over again. This makes the letter X for excellent. Because you're excellent. Repeat the whole process again so that you have a double layer of thread everywhere. Tie a square knot at the back with the 2 loose ends of the thread, and cut off the extra. Now I left both bands with a bit of extra length on them, so I'm going to buckle the buckle at about the middle hole, and try it on the person who's going to wear it. Once I have the length figured out, I can cut my bands, angle the corners so they look nice, and while we're doing it, let's angle the corners on the Eyepatch section as well. Slide the little loop on the band with the buckle, overlap the band onto the Eyepatch, and mark and drill the holes. Sew it the same way you sewed the buckle. If you find you have trouble pulling the needle through, sometimes a little pair of pliers is super helpful for that. When you've done the X twice with the thread, you can tie it up again. Now because the thread is so thick, sometimes it makes kind of a bulky knot. So I like to roll over it with something and kind of squish it into the leather and just squish it down. The waxiness of the cord helps with that and helps it stay smushed. Repeat for the other band and you're done. All right, we got leather eye patches. That's pretty great. My daughter was really happy with how hers turned out, and this one's mine that I've had for years. I made a long time ago. I used rivets here instead of sewing, which is of course faster, but means you need a few extra tools, so I just went with the sewing on this one, but you could totally use rivets. Also, if you use rivets, this angle can change if you need a different angle on your eye patch connection. You might have noticed in the video that there's some lighter spots on the band, and that's because the dye didn't dye there, which was kind of frustrating, but I think it's because the leather was right near the edge, and so there's probably some stuff going on there. I will say I am not a leather smith. I've just done this off and on through the years as a bit of a hobby, so I'm sure there's better techniques and ways of doing things than I've showed you. You could go watch some leather videos for that. As usual, I'll leave a link to the pattern in the description. It'll probably be near the bottom of my website when you go there, so just keep scrolling down until you find it. Thanks for watching. See ya.